In Algebra 2, Chapter 3, we're asked to find an equation in standard form for the line through the point 3 and -1 that is parallel to the line 4x minus 3y equals 7. I remember when I first learned this, I did not understand what they were even asking. So what we're going to do is break down the question. We're going to find an equation. We know what equations are. It has an x and a y, some sort of an equation. But they want it in standard form. And if you remember, a standard form looks like this. It's ax plus by equals c, where a, b, and c are actual numbers. Okay? So we're going to find an equation that's in this form for a line, because lines and equations, right? A line in a graph can be made into an equation through the point 3 and -1, which is x and y, that is parallel to this line. So if we were to graph this line, they're asking us to find another line that's parallel to this line, but it includes 3, -1. So this equation does not include this point. This equation is an equation that they're asked to find another equation in standard form with this point. Okay? So that's kind of breaking that down. And so all we know right now is what's given. We know that the first equation is 4x minus 3y equals 7. What we can find from this equation is the slope, because the slope of this equation is going to be parallel to the other equation because they are parallel. Parallel lines have the same slope. So the slope of this equation and this equation are going to be identical. So let's go ahead and find the slope for this. To find the slope, we have to get it equals into y equals mx plus b form and get y by itself. So we're just going to do some basic algebra and isolate y. Don't forget to bring down the -3y. This is an area of common mistakes. Equals, and we're going to put -4x because we want it in this form, x plus 7. Now we're going to go ahead and divide both sides by -3. And we get y equals positive 4/3, because a -4 divided by -3 is going to still be a positive. That's your slope. And then we have x plus 7 over -3. You don't have to solve that part because our whole goal was really to try to find the slope. So we found that the slope of this equation is 4/3. So now we can use that information. It's like a puzzle. We're going to use that information and plug it in to our new equation. That's our goal, is to find this equation. So this equation, we know that the slope, and I'm going to call it M2 because we don't want to get first equation mixed up with the second equation. So second equation has the slope of this, and it has the point x, I'll call it x2 also, 3, and the y is -1. And we're going to plug it into our y equals mx plus b form because that's what's given. We've gotten an x and y and a slope. So naturally we would just plug it into an equation that has x, y, and slope. Some students want to plug it into point slope, but I actually think this way is a little bit easier. Okay, so we have y, which is -1, equals the slope, which is 4/3, times 3, which is x, plus b. We're solving for b. We have -1 equals 4 plus b. We can go ahead and solve for b. We're going to subtract 4 to both sides. This is some basic algebra. And we get -5. So the y-intercept, we're getting closer, for this equation is -5. The x is 3, the y is -1, and the slope is this. So let's go ahead and take this up here. We're going to plug it into y equals mx plus b. Y equals, the slope is still 4/3 for this second equation, plus -5. Now we're not quite done because the equation that we're asking for, this is slope-intercept form where they want standard form. To get standard form, my trick is just to get x and y on one side. Notice x and y is on this side of the equal sign. So we're going to go ahead and subtract 4/3 to both sides. Just some basic algebra manipulation, and we get this. Now we think we're done, but unfortunately there's this rule that tells us that the a in the standard form cannot be negative and it cannot be a fraction. Okay, so remember, the a cannot be a negative and cannot be a fraction. Unfortunately, we have both a negative and a fraction for a, wherever a is, right here. So I'm going to multiply the whole entire thing by -3 in order to get rid of the fraction and the negative number, right? So if I did distributive to the whole entire equation, I can get rid of it and I'll end up with 4x plus -3y equals a +15. Now it's okay if b is negative. The rule is a cannot be a negative and it cannot be a fraction. So with all that work, we finally came up with an equation that is in standard form for the line where 3 and -1 fit into this equation because we plugged it in. That is parallel, this is parallel to that equation. Okay, so be sure to watch the next video because we're going to do the same word problem but something that is perpendicular. So everything's going to be the same, but an equation, we're going to find an equation in standard form that is going to be perpendicular to this line. And you're going to take a look and see the difference. All right?